We love talking about aerial skiing here on Off the Podium. Had plenty of guests over the years from the sport, and we're actually ticking off a bit of a list today in terms of Aussie Olympians from Beijing. We've spoken to Laura, we've spoken to Danny, and we are now here to speak to the third Australian who competed in Beijing in 2022 in women's aerials. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show Gabi Ash. Gabi, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You are creating history as well by being the first ever sibling of another guest we've had on the show. We obviously had Sophie on a little bit back a while ago. So ticking the boxes, or everything there. We like completing lists here on the show, Gabi. So thank you.
No worries.
It always works out well. But I love sort of your journey into aerial skiing because sort of you skied, then didn't, then did. So explain maybe a little bit sort of how you ended up doing that from skiing to not skiing to getting back into skiing and ultimately becoming an Olympian in skiing.
So I started skiing when I was about 3. Obviously Sophie's older than me, so my parents had taken her skiing. They were quite keen skiers when they were younger. And then, when I got old enough to walk, and they took me skiing with Sophie. So Sophie kind of got into race club, and I used to kind of go up and do like Team Extreme in Mount Buller on the weekends. And then I started getting into, I did gymnastics until I was about 10. And then when I stopped that, I started like a holiday program for diving.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of started to kick off more. So that took up more of my time. And then, so I kind of wasn't able to really ski as much. So I would stop going up on the weekends and when Sophie would go up. I had my diving career, and then I finished that when I was like 17, and then, no, maybe 18. It was at the start of year 12. And then halfway through year 12, I was like, I'm bored. I need to do some sort of sport or something. By then Sophie had changed from kind of racing to moguls. And she heard about the aerials program because obviously jumping at Lilydale, you see like the aerialists there. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try out. Like, I kind of want to start skiing again. Like, because I remember hearing that in the aerials program, like you obviously, a lot of the athletes that were gymnasts who couldn't ski beforehand. And so you kind of ski for a while before you kind of get into the aerials aspect of it. Okay, cool. Like, I'll go up and ski for a bit again and then see, I guess, what happens. Didn't really know much about aerial skiing. I kind of got
history.
Skiing,
Yeah. Which I love. The one thing I love about that story is that for once, we didn't have an aerial skier sitting in the crowd at a diving or a gymnastics event trying to steal all the athletes away. Because as I keep saying, it's great that, you've got to get them from there. But I'm looking forward to the day when it can kind of be the opposite. You've got gymnasts sitting in the crowd at an aerials event going like, we want you to come back to gymnastics. Because it doesn't really happen that way, sadly, does it?
Yeah, no. Well, hopefully now that we've got the water ramp in Brisbane, cause we've got like the divers right next door, and then there's also like the gymnastic complex as well, all in the same area. Like for example, the divers walk out from the dry land, see the jumping, and then go in to dive. Like, yeah,
it's all there.
If I stop, I could start that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just we've had so much success in aerials that I think, we've got to get this into gymnastics now. It feels like if we're that good at tricks and flipping and all that kind of stuff, like take away the snow, put it on the mat. It can't be that hard, surely.
Exactly.
Exactly. Which, I mean, when it sort of came to the gymnastics and then you're talking about diving, was it the acrobatics of it that you enjoyed, sort of the trick aspect, sort of what was it about those sports that led you to doing those at a young age?
I feel like gymnastics is kind of one of those sports that like a lot of people kind of get into when they're younger, kind of teach coordination and all that. And then I did end up being quite successful in it, but I remember my coach at the time being like, oh, she's going to be too tall. I'm not that tall, but gymnast, I guess. And then at that point I was like, I would kind of come to school at recess and then leave like early still, or I'd come to school by lunchtime. Like, I was starting to miss a lot of school. And then, I guess then I went to a holiday program for diving because it was kind of a natural progression, like acrobatic. And I think like I loved acrobatics. So I tried that and I really enjoyed it. But It's funny because like a lot of the other gymnasts who I used to like, who I kind of grew up with, they kind of did the progression from gymnastics to diving because you still do acrobatics, but a lot of people can't get over landing on your head in
Mm.
diving from gymnastics. So,
Because you don't really land on your head in gymnastics. That's kind of frowned
well,
upon in gymnastics.
yeah, you'd hope not.
Yeah, might be a
Well,
bit. You've fucked that up somewhere if you're doing that. Which I love kind of the correlations between sports though, when you kind of have that sort of transitional, and those three are kind of all the way they kind of all work with that. But when you were sort of in gymnastics or then into diving, were the Olympics something that you looked at? Was this sort of something that you grew up watching, going, "Cool, that's what I want to do," and I could achieve that potentially in gymnastics and diving?
Yeah, definitely. More so diving, I think, is gymnastics. Like I was quite young, so I wasn't like I was like, oh, yeah, I want to go to the Olympics, but I can't say I was watching gymnastics competitions all day, every day. But yeah, definitely more so diving. I definitely was aiming for the Olympics. I was still kind of younger at the time, but I remember my coach being like, Rio, like you and this other girl are going to go there for synchro when we were like training up and trying to learn all these new like platform dives. And I think that was the first time where I was kind of like, oh, like I could go.
Wow.
So
Well, I saw your favorite sporting moment, Matthew Mitcham winning gold in 2008. So obviously, kind of that, seeing someone like that win a gold, that was an iconic moment back in 2008, though. But I mean, I can sure that gives you a bit of energy, a bit of spurring on to the prospect, and then you got your coach saying, "Hey, Rio, 2016, you guys, you can do it. You keep going."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was an awesome moment. Like the highest scoring dive ever at that time. I'm not entirely sure if someone's beat that, but
I think someone did. I think there was one of the Chinese divers might have at Tokyo, from memory. But no, I mean at the time that was just absolutely insane to have to put that all on the line, one dive,
yeah.
boom, done it. Just absolutely insane. And it's a sport that I think Australia always forgets how successful we are when it comes to, we've seen that at the Commonwealth Games and obviously in the Olympics. You've kind of got these people out there that just boom, diving, great. This is how good it actually is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a cool sport.
Which, when it came to doing that switch to aerial skiing, obviously the skiing aspect's kind of important. You sort of had that down pat from what it sounds like. But how transitional are the moves from diving into aerial skiing? Is it a simple case of, well, you're doing flips and turns, it's the same thing? Or is it a different style that you have to kind of transition and get used to when you first start hitting the slopes into aerials?
Yeah, so I did, well, I wouldn't say struggle, but I feel like I was kind of behind at the start because it is a different like twisting style and kind of like aerials is kind of all straight flips and you kind of in diving you're kind of tucking or piking and doing really fast flips. And aerials you kind of spot the landing, diving you kind of have no idea, you kind of have the feel. Um, and also the twisting style is different. For example, like diving you do, if you're going backwards you do a half or a 1.5 or a 2.5. In aerials you do full double, which I know sounds like fine, but it was kind of weird to wrap my head around that at the beginning, like just doing one less half of a twist. But I think the good thing about diving as well, I did more platforms, so I kind of was used to heights, and having that awareness of how high I am when I am at a height, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like is quite transferable to aerials, which I feel like gymnasts maybe don't have as much of that, maybe because I guess the floor they're not going as high. So yeah, I feel like they were good and things which I had to work on from diving.
Which you also, I guess, technically in aerials, you get more time in the air, don't you? Because you're
Yeah.
not obviously falling as fast as you would in diving. I remember we had Laura Hinkson on. I think she described it as like a 2 second time or something from the 10 meter
Yeah.
down to the pool, which I can imagine a little bit longer. But again, it's a different motion. With diving, you're coming from a standing start and you've got a steady platform, whereas aerials, you're obviously sloping down, picking up speed, and then kind of there's all that element to it. So, do you find it would, when they get gymnasts over to aerials who maybe don't have that diving experience, would you say it's easier for a diver to transition into aerials or easier for a gymnast to transition into aerials?
Um, I would say gymnast, just because I feel like the acrobatics are more similar than to diving. Because diving, as you said, you're standing and then you have to like generate the. Well, actually, I guess it's similar in gymnastics. But I feel like more so in diving, you have to generate the twist and the salt. While in gymnastics, I guess bars is maybe more similar to aerials. I don't
Mm. hmm
know.
Trampoline, I guess you kind of
Yeah, well,
bouncing and you got that.
trampoline is probably the. It's funny that we don't really have any trampolines, but
Yeah, so
so
it's
that's
been a
probably
while.
similar to
Yeah.
aerial.
Which I got to think then too when you make that transition, and obviously with what Sophie's doing in moguls. I mean, were you tempted for moguls? Were you tempted for any of the other freestyle disciplines, or was it kind of always aerials or nothing?
Um, well, like I love the like idea of moguls. Like I think it's awesome, but like you definitely have to be a better skier than I am to do moguls. And it's a lot more training. Like a lot of them start a lot younger than I guess I did when I restarted skiing. Um, so I don't think I could have been successful at moguls. And big air, I reckon, would have been really cool, but I just didn't even know that was an option, I guess, at the time. Plus, that's all off axis, which is like very foreign to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's fascinating all the different disciplines that there are and kind of how it all comes across. But when you start making your way out through the ranks, I mean, kind of 2017, I believe, sort of around that area, your first international competition around then too. That would have been on the back end of Lydia's career, which I'm not sure how much you sort of bumped shoulders at that point. But what's it like sort of joining a team where she's coming to the twilight of her career? Is she great for advice? Do you kind of lean on her a little bit to get some tips and that moving forward just as you're starting your aerials career?
Yeah, so yeah, 2017. That was just before Pyeongchang. And I remember being in Finland and that was my first year doing like singles, like the first time flipping on snow really. And we used to train at a different time from the World Cup team, and that was when Lydia was training. But we would often like come out and watch them, and yeah, I guess it was pretty cool because obviously she's just such a pioneer in the sport. Like you hear about her achievements, and then getting to see that. After that, I didn't really cross paths with her that much, but I would say like Laura Peel, for example, like I've trained alongside her since I started. So I'd say she's probably been the main person that I've like looked up to and kind of got tips and tricks and all that from.
It's because it's just seems to be this everlasting legacy that we've got on the Australian aerial team, don't we? From back in the Kirsty and Jackie days through to Alyssa, now Lydia, and now obviously with Laura, as you're saying, and Danny in there too, and now yourself. Like it just seems like no matter when it seems like one athlete's career is coming to an end, we've gone, and we'll pick you. You will continue this legacy because it's just such a sport that Australia has done so well in over the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think that's like probably one of the reasons why we are so successful. It's like because there always has been people who you've been able to look up to and kind of share the secrets of success with. And yeah, because I would say like yeah, definitely training alongside Laura. I've only recently started training alongside Danny more so, but like when in my younger, more impressionable years, it was more so Laura. Yeah, she's definitely helped shape me into an athlete that I am today with like competitions and training and stuff. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
With that progression, though, obviously saying 2017, so just before Pyeongchang, but after those games, do you set yourself straight away like Beijing, this is my goal? Are you sort of told that it might not happen Beijing, look towards 2026? Kind of what sort of do you go in your mindset at that point when you're starting off and progressing through the international competitions at that stage?
Yeah, so like 2017, obviously first singles, like first time flipping on snow. I don't think at that point I would have been like if someone told me, okay, you're going to Olympics in 2022, I would have been like, whoa, like that's crazy. Because yeah, after that it was kind of you learn your doubles. Like I do a few more World Cups, but even then, like I guess once COVID hit, I did like one World Cup in the previous season before COVID, and then during the COVID season, like 2020, I got to do a few more. But even then, I think I still felt like a bit more of a junior athlete. So I guess that 2020, 2021, I was thinking like, okay, cool. I could have a chance at the Olympics, but I don't think I was ever like, oh, I've got a chance. Like I'm 100% going to go. It was kind of just have fun, do your best, and then see what happens, I guess.
Because I remember, I want to talk about Dave Morris. I know he's your coach, but I read his autobiography and just amazing book, and sort of reading sort of through his journey through the Olympics about how kind of Vancouver almost was a bonus, you know, sort of that wasn't something that he necessarily thought would happen, but it happened. But it seemed like that helped him a lot to what would happen with Sochi. So like for yourself, kind of have that moment where it's like, okay, well, this would be great, but maybe not. But like, I can imagine now that you've got an Olympics out of the way, you've done your first, that can only help you sort of moving forward, particularly because you're still so young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Like, I think that was definitely a bonus, being able to go to Beijing. Because I think 2026 is most definitely when, like, I'll be 26, 27 then. Like, that's kind of more the age when female athletes do peak. So yeah, it's definitely more of a probably serious competition rather than me. Not that this wasn't a serious competition, but I guess I was more attending, and it was definitely more of an experience than actually like, okay, I'm a contestant for a medal.
Which going through that then too, because obviously in the lead up to Beijing, you know, great finishes. You get some medals in the NORAM as well. 15th on your World Championship debut, pretty decent event. When it comes to sort of points and qualifying, is it a balance act with, say, NORAMs, World Cups, and sort of how it all works? And do you then all of a sudden get to a point where it's like, well, I need to do more World Cups to help towards this, or getting third in a NORAM will be better than finishing 20th in a World Cup? Like, how does that kind of all work in the lead into an Olympics?
So the 2 years before count towards the Olympic quota in your ranking. So the like 2020, no, 2019, 2020, I think that was like my first year on the World Cup circuit. So I only did two. And I did end up getting like a few good places, which kind of set me up well for the 2020, 2021 season. And that season, no, sorry, 2021, 2022 season.
COVID screwed our minds up with dates. What are even our dates anymore, Gab? We don't know what they are.
It's all a blur.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2021 season leading up to the games, it was like do as many World Cups as you can, do as well as you can, obviously. And I did get a sixth in Ruka in December in 2021, which I think I'm not entirely sure about the criteria, but I think it was if you got a top six, you then qualify a spot for the Olympics. Like not necessarily me qualifying a spot, but Australia qualifies a spot. So obviously Laura and Danny had done that already. And then I think by me doing that in Finland, I just then had to make the top 30 in the rankings. And then, yeah.
Then you're in. The slots confirmed, basically. And is there sort of with the depth of women's aerials, so if you're the third best and you've got that quota for Australia, are you then pretty confident that you're the one going to be chosen for it? Because I obviously realise that it all comes down to quotas, and then generally it comes down to the federation choosing which of those quotas go to which athletes, right? So just because you've qualified, you'd hope you're going, but that might not necessarily mean you get chosen, right?
Yeah. Well, that was kind of, how the season was going. It was like, don't assume that you're going because, as they kept saying, like, you've qualified that spot, but it's not for you necessarily. So, like, after the last World Cup before the games, we then did, like, a 2-week camp in Canada before going to Beijing. And, like, I didn't know if I was going or not then. There was me and another girl who had been injured in the season beforehand, so wasn't able to get results then, so this was kind of her season to get results. So we were kind of there and we didn't know if we were going or not. So I kind of always had that in the back of my head, like, oh, they could send her over me, or they might just choose not to send either of us if we don't make the ranking or I don't know. So
That's insane. 2 weeks
yeah.
out. Like, this is what always just amazes me, particularly with our winter athletes, because it is so damn close to an Olympics. I mean, we had a sailor on recently, and he'd qualified like 2 years before the Olympics. So he was off just holidaying around, just doing whatever. He knew he was there, but 2 weeks before, you still don't know if you're there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Which, when it comes in, when they call you, bring you into the office, email, carrier pigeon, whatever it is, and they say, like, Gabby, you're going to the Olympics. What's that feeling like?
I think it was just like it was relief really because it was very much like, okay, so we're doing a pre-Olympic camp, but am I going? Um, so I'm going to train obviously as hard as I can, as I would either way. But yeah, it was just like a weight off the shoulders, really. Like I know it was, yeah, it was crazy. It was very cool.
Was your spot, had Sophie already been confirmed at that point? Were you kind of number two or number one? Because I can imagine both your parents, when you're both going to the Olympics, that's a pretty special feeling. But did you beat her to being selected first, technically, or?
Actually, a great question because freestyle was announced around the same time. I have a feeling she knew before me.
Right.
I remember.
Roundabout, yeah. Which, how is that, like, I don't know, next dinner when you come home from the Olympics, before the Olympics, you there with mum and dad. Hey, how you going? How's your last couple of months? Oh, good. We just both went to the Olympics. Yeah, all right, fair enough. What have you been doing? Working on the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be a pretty fun dinner that when you're all together the next time after that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it was cool because, well, obviously Sophie went home before me because we had like the 48-hour time after our competition, before we went home. And yeah, I can't, I feel like that's kind of a blur now, like getting home from the games because you're just kind of like, oh, it's over, like, a bit exhausted. But yeah, I think we went out for dinner and we kind of, celebrated a bit. But I
I
guess
hope they paid, for their two daughter Olympians. Like, I feel like you deserve a free meal
we
after
did,
that,
yeah.
right? Kind of wish that way. But with obviously the aerials being in the second week, so you've got that whole week leading up to it. Obviously, you get to go watch Sophie, which was fantastic. I know she unfortunately didn't get to watch you, as you said, she went home. But would you rather, like in an event like that, get it over and done with? Kind of, is it a nervous waiting around to the second week, or do you prefer sort of being able to relax a little bit, soak in the Olympic atmosphere before you ultimately get to compete?
Um, like I do think it was a good, we actually had quite a lot of time there because there was the team event first. So we got there like, yeah, luckily just in time for me to be able to watch Sophie. But then there was the team event. We had like a few days of training. There was the team event, and then we had like another week. So we were kind of there for like 2 weeks, like longer than most athletes. But I actually enjoyed it. Like I didn't think it was like it made me more stressed necessarily because like I was able to hang out with Sophie at the start. Like we'd kind of walk around the village together and I got to watch her. And then we did get a lot of training, so we were really used to the site, I guess, by the time the competition actually rolled around.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I quite enjoyed the amount of time we had there.
Got to see Australia win gold with Jakara. So, I mean, you were there, right? So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was a good night. Decent,
exactly.
celebrating your sister, celebrating Australia. It all works out well.
Yeah.
Just on the team event, actually, obviously Australia not in it because we didn't have a male aerial
Mhm.
skier, but how tempted was Dave to pull on the skis again? Like, because I mean, like every year, every Olympics, I'm retiring, and he ultimately finally did, and he's coaching now. But was he close to like putting him on again to help it out and get a team in Beijing?
I reckon if someone seriously told him like, okay, you need to do like, I don't know, just a double, you just need to compete, he would have been like, all right, I'm gonna go. Like,
Yeah.
if they're serious about it, I reckon he would have done it.
Yeah, because it was obviously a pretty small field, so high chance of a medal there. If you got yourself, Laura, and Danny, bloody good skiers. Dave, decent skier himself. I reckon we could have done that. I reckon medal would have been ours, Gabby, easy.
I know it was a missed opportunity, really, but next
Yeah,
Olympics.
next one. Did you set yourself a goal going into the Olympics? Was it a case of, hey, I'm going for a medal, or I want to make the final? Kind of like, what was your goal going into the Olympics?
Definitely, I wanted to make the final, and I think it was more just like I wanted to experience the games, and I wanted to be able to perform under that pressure. So I was kind of I put the goal on myself. Like obviously, I kind of just wanted to do my best. I wanted to land my jumps and kind of show what I could do. I guess as everyone wants to do, but yeah, I didn't necessarily have a hard goal of, okay, you need to get this place, you need to do this, you need to do this, because I think that could have potentially stressed me out more than I wanted to be. So yeah.
In terms of that experience, you're saying sort of like soaking the Olympics, we always love hearing, I mean, you've obviously talked a little bit about, going to watch Sophie and all that kind of stuff, but were there other things? Did you get involved in like pin trading, bump into some famous person, you're like, oh my God, there's that person there, like sort of what was that whole experience like before competing?
I did do a bit of pin trading. I was a bit stingy with my pins though, because I think because the Australian pins are a bit of a hot commodity because there's not as many of us compared to like, the Canadians, US. So people would be like, oh, can we swap our pins? I'd be like, oh. But so because it was a bit like we were testing, you didn't want to get COVID obviously while you were there.
Yeah.
And we were testing ourselves every day. They were kind of saying like, limit the amount of time you go into the shops in the Olympic Village, or like don't go in the dining hall in the village. Like we kind of stayed put in our Aussie house for a majority leading up to the competition. So I can't say I really like mingled too much before, but I definitely like wandered around a lot. And I did see like, famous athletes from afar and be like, oh my God.
Who was the most famous? Who was the most famous one you saw?
Most famous? Let's see. Oh, I'm blanking on their names now.
Put you on the spot here for this, Gabi.
Seriously. Oh, I cannot remember now.
Did you see like, Chloe Kim or like, I mean, Scotty James is a teammate of yours technically, but like, do you see anybody like that?
We did. I can't even remember. I don't think he came one of the days after he won his medal, but he was in a different village to us. So right. We were where the big air was. They were close. They were in Beijing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of sort of different ones, obviously with the different clusters, right? So it's sort of not quite the same. But I've loved hearing this from every one of our Aussie athletes from Beijing, though, about that vibe that must have been going through the team given the success. And I mean, I remember when the aerials were coming up, and obviously, with Laura, Danny, all these extra hopes of medals. At that point, we'd already won the 4. A couple of days after, Jackie gets the silver and the skeleton, the surprise one there. You had Bree and the bobsled around about that same time too. So it must have been such a great vibe for you all to kind of feed off, that the team had been so successful and still had a whole week to go there.
Yeah, no, it was so cool because like in the team house, Australian house, we had like a kind of lounge room, and every event that was kind of going on, if you weren't able to go out and watch it, we would always have it on the TV. So like throughout the day, you'd go make breakfast, and then there'd be someone like doing their, I don't know, finals run or something on the TV, and everyone would be huddling around like cheering and stuff. And like it was such a cool atmosphere. Like it was very cool. Like we watched Tess win her medal on TV, and obviously I saw Jakara in person, and watched Jackie, and it was really cool. It definitely lit the fire a bit.
Definitely. And also, as I keep hearing, you had your own barista there too, didn't you? Like, I think wasn't Australia the only team that kind of had their like exclusive Australian Olympic barista?
Yeah, we did. It was very good. Jacob.
Which I want that job. Jacob. All right, shout out to Jacob. It's like, I mean, you don't think about these roles that can take you to an Olympics. You've got baristas out there listening to this guy. Wow, I can go to an Olympic Games now as a barista. Yeah. Like, come on, Australian Olympic Committee, hire me.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you have the best job in the village. Like,
yeah,
all day, and you're here.
Good old Jacob. I like that. I love hearing about how exclusive like the Aussie pins were, because I mean, it's, you want to trade, you want to get them, but I kind of like this idea that Australia's got the best. Well, what was it that made it so special?
I actually don't know if it was that special, but someone told me they're like, just like, be a bit stingy with your pins, because we had the cool kangaroo ones.
Yep.
And we weren't given that many. We were maybe given like 5 or so at the beginning, and then it turns out we did get some more at the end, which is kind of nice. But,
holding out for you.
Yeah. At the end, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I think we had what about like 200 athletes or Australian athletes. I can't remember the exact number, but like compared to like the US, yeah, Canada, other countries, there was quite a small amount of Australian pins going around. So I think when people did see Australians, they were like, "Give me a pin."
Give me a pin. Give me a pin. Which do you then, like, from a smaller name, like, do you try and find, like, a Jamaican athlete because they're going to have even less pins? Or, I think you had Trinidad and Tobago, some of these countries that you'd be like, oh, cool, I want to get one of those pins.
Exactly, yeah. I saw a guy, he was from Nigeria, and I was like, "Oh, do you want to swap a pin?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll bring one to you." But then I never saw him again, which is kind of sad.
Ah,
But I got like
damn.
Brazil, which was really cool pin. Oh, there was another one that was really cool, but I didn't end up getting that one. But yeah, definitely the smaller countries were very bit of hot
Sought
commodity.
after, yeah. And do you do the whole, like, put them on the lanyard sort of around your accreditation? Is that sort of where you end up putting them?
Yeah, I started on the lanyard and then I put a bit on the few on the beanie.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That works. Okay. And is it also like uniform trading? I know that sometimes happens. Like you get to the end of the games, do you go like, oh, I really love the Brazilian jacket. I'll swap you my Aussie jacket for your Brazilian jacket. Because you obviously have a few of them that you could probably share around too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I wish I did more of that. I did swap. I got a Canadian top and a Canadian hat because, of course, they were decked out in Lululemon. So they
Lululemon, I was going to say, you need
thought
to
their
make the
gear,
most of free Lululemon, right?
really, they thought their gear was like the best, and it kind of was. So I was like, I swapped, I think, my like bright yellow t-shirt or something, and I was like, okay, you can have it. It doesn't suit me, so
Why not?
yeah. I think I got a Swiss beanie. Um, yeah, I wish I did a bit more, but that's all right. Next time.
Did you get to do any of the ceremonies at all? Obviously, you were there sort of a little bit earlier, but afterwards, were you shipped out straight away, or were you allowed to sort of stick around and do the ceremony?
We were shipped out within like 2 days, so just missed the closing ceremony, which is kind of sad. And I didn't go to the opening ceremony, but of course, like Laura was the flag bearer, so she went and experienced that, which was pretty cool. Once again, it was kind of like, do you risk it with COVID and all the waiting for the opening ceremony? So in the end, I think most of us decided not to do it. But we kind of did our own opening ceremony at the Olympic Village where we were at, and we kind of walked around as Australian team and had our flag. And like I think the Canadians did it as well. And like so it was still kind of it was nice. It was cool.
Had that fun. Again, it's your first Olympics, Gabi. You got many more opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies you get to go to. The competition itself, obviously, Laura and Danny do pretty all right in the first one, go straight through. But then yourself, missing out by what was it, 1.5 of a point. Now, just get it out now, Gabby. Bullshit. You should have made it. Like, come on, rip into the judges right now. Bullshit. You should have been in that final,
Yeah.
right?
Well, so I can, in their defense, I can see why that point was maybe taken off, but I'll probably be angry then because I think they thought I touched my hand on the snow when I landed, which I will forever say that I did not. But from their point of view, it looked like I did. But anyway,
it's that frustrating aspect though, which you no doubt get used to, right? About any judge sport that it plays a part. But I mean, at an Olympics, though, like I mean, even though it's obviously disappointing to miss out by that much of a final, can you sort of almost reflect and go, well, I was 1.5 away from a final in my first Olympics at the age of 24. So I mean, there are positives to take away from that disappointment, I can imagine.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I did not leave the competition feeling disappointed in myself. Like obviously I think I could have done better, yes, but I was pretty happy with how I competed. Yeah. So
And I've got to say though too, on the competitiveness of siblings, you finished 14th at the Olympics. Sophie finished 16th. You beat Sophie at the Olympic Games. You got to take that one, right?
that is very true. I've actually never thought of it that way.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Take that up at Christmas
Yeah.
dinner, like, hey, pass me the potatoes. And guess what, Sophie? Beat you at the Olympics, Thanks for that.
I get extra dessert now. Like
Exactly. But I mean, what was the vibe like because like the thing that sort of came from that, obviously, with Laura making the super final, finishing fifth, Danny obviously just missing out, and like both obviously seemed incredibly devastated for the kind of that. Like being teammates in that situation. I mean, are you able to sort of go in and sort of console them and kind of go there? I mean, like, what was that whole vibe like after it, just amongst all three of you?
Yeah, so it obviously was a bit of a disappointing outcome for both of them. Like they definitely both had medal potential, and had been training and competing so well in the lead up. So yeah, afterwards it was a bit of a it was a bit of a low kind of atmosphere, but I don't know, it was hard to like I was obviously there for them, but also there was kind of the like people kind of saying to me like, obviously it's disappointing for them, but don't let that like, I guess, underpin your success at your first competition. But they were both really good about it. Like obviously they were deflated, but I think they just needed time and kind of just, they've obviously experienced disappointment within their area's career, like everyone does. So they kind of know how within themselves how to deal with it. But yeah, I think we're all a strong team unit. Like we've traveled and lived together away from home for like months on end. So yeah.
It's always taking that disappointment and turning it into fuel for the fire to push towards obviously the next Olympics, which I mean, obviously for them, different points of their career, but for you, as we've said, this is almost like a bit of a bonus Olympics. So do you now just kind of switch that focus? You've got another, well, I guess 3 and a bit years now at the time of recording this towards Milan, and is that kind of just where your head's at and what you'll be doing now, sort of moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's also like world champs this year, so I think it's just, this year has been I had a bit of a break, and I only just came back to training actually like a few weeks ago to just kind of, reset. And yeah, I think now I'm just like, I want to perfect the things that I know I need to do better at, and keep going each year, and
keep going towards that, which it's always developing, right? Learning, like as in like there's always a new trick to learn, and once you kind of you land that and you nail that, then it's on to the next one. So it's a sport that doesn't really stop in terms of your development.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I also have to ask a bit more about Dave, having him as a coach, because we've had him on the show, great guy, and one of the greatest characters I think in all of Aussie Olympic sports. But I mean, how is that to kind of have him on board? Obviously, probably a great coach, but he's also a bit of fun too. Like, does that just make having a coach like that just fun as well as being inspirational as well, given his amazing career?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, it's cool because, obviously he's done the whole aerials journey. He's been an athlete. He's kind of like, he's literally done everything I'm doing. And so having that like extra kind of insight into it is, makes coaches, I think, that a bit better. And yeah, as you know, he's full of energy. Like he's jumping off the walls and like excited about everything. And yeah, it's very cool because I know I might get to training and be tired or something, and then obviously he's like super pumped about it. Like aerials, like I don't think anything could get him more excited than aerials. So
I seriously expect him to see him at another Olympics competing. Like I couldn't believe he wasn't at Beijing. I didn't believe that at all.
Like I think the amount of times he kind of mentioned like, oh, it'd be funny if I did the team event. I was like, oh, not the surprise if he strapped on some skis, but
yeah, we need more male aerial skiers. I mean, do we have them, Gabi? What's going on? Why can't we get men into this sport?
Yeah, well, like we have had some of them in the past. It's just there wasn't really a pathway for boys. Like I think because like obviously for the men to be competitive, they do like harder tricks, higher degree of difficulty. And so that takes longer. And then, so in the past that I guess they haven't really put funding towards that as much. But we do have a male in our World Cup team now.
Great.
So that's really cool.
Good to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Which, I mean, I love that, in Dave's book, just like, learning sort of the difficulties that he had going through it, because as you said, no pathway. It was just insane to kind of see that. Have you read his book? Like, does he give you a copy on like day one of him coaching? Read my book, it's great.
He doesn't know. I have read snips of his book because I think another athlete has had it and I've kind of read snippets of it. But I do need to do that and get it signed by him.
Probably a good idea while you can with that, because I mean it really is a great book. I definitely really enjoyed that. I mean it kind of must like it's fascinating when you say like you took that time off, because a lot of the interviews we've done this year obviously have just come straight after the Olympics, and you know, are you going to the next Olympics? Oh, don't ask me now. I'm still having a holiday. But like what do you do to wind down after sort of this big cycle, this big push to go to an Olympics? You get the highs and everything that comes. I mean, do you just go lay on a beach somewhere or something, given you're probably so sick of snow that you're seeing for what, like 75% of the year?
Yeah, as I was saying before, it was like a blur after coming back. Like, I think you just kind of have that mental, just like, I guess you're on just such a high for so long and just so like wired that as soon as you get home, it's just like, I don't know, a mental like drain. But yeah, I think I just kind of saw my friends. It was really nice to see that, well, obviously friends and family after being away, because we were away for about 9 to 10 months leading up to the games. So yeah, and it was getting slightly cooler in Melbourne by that time. So I wasn't really lying on the beach, but I was definitely enjoying being out of the minus 30-degree wind chill in Beijing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was very nice. But yeah, it was more just enjoying being home and like just there's nothing better than I think sleeping in your own bed after being away for so long as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just enjoying kind of the lifestyle of home and
Going all through that, which it's also, I mean, I don't know if aerials is a sport where you're forced to get up super early, but we know obviously a lot of sports you do for training. But is there a moment where maybe you do have a set schedule sleeping when you're in competition training mode, but when you're not, you got that time off and you're like, fuck it, no alarm, phone is off, I'm asleep. If it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't care. Nobody disturb me, and just have like the longest sleeping ever.
100%. Every day off or break, I'm like, I'm not setting an alarm. If I wake up, I wake up. If I don't, I don't. Like, I'll be right.
And it's also a case too, like, I always love hearing, like, you know, strict diet when you're competing, and then all of a sudden, McDonald's on the way home, Mum, let's go, you know, let's go to KFC, order, you know, 50 nuggets or something like that. Do you just let it go for like a week or two after an Olympics, or even in the village afterwards? Are you just like, fuck it, I can eat Pizza Hut now, I can eat KFC?
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, it's all in moderation, right? Like,
yeah, of course, moderation. But you're allowed, like, again, you're an Olympian. You got to celebrate, right? Like, you got to allow yourself a day or two off. Come on.
Oh yeah, well the amount we train, like, can have a treat every once in a while. No, but after our competition, we were like straight to the dining hall. Like, they had really good dumplings there. Like, I know that's not like, but
no, that's exciting. Like, no McDonald's, but dumplings. Come on, yes.
They had KFC there, but
I've learned that recently. Like, we keep talking about the fact that no McDonald's, but KFC was a thing. So that's a pretty decent substitute for McDonald's. That works.
Yeah, it is. I actually have never been to KFC, which is
wow.
Because McDonald's is always my choice, I guess, over any of the other fast food kind of places. So how have I been to KFC? So I can't say.
So not even at the village. You didn't even go at the village.
No, I should have.
Jeez, it's free. Like, you could have had so much stuff there, Gabby. Like, all the stuff you could have had, like, you know, everything. You could have tried literally everything on the menu.
I know. I should have. I really should have done that.
Jeez.
But I went straight to dumplings and the other kind of Chinese food that they had on offer. So.
Well, when in China, you got to have Chinese food. I mean, generally the best cuisine is in the home country, right? Like, I've never been a Mexican food fan, but when I went to Mexico and had Mexican food, I was like, okay, well, this is amazing. I can see why this is like absolutely incredible with that. It's just, I love I don't know why I get so excited over the fast foods that are at the village, you know, because you always heard those stories about, like, as soon as, you know, certain athletes would finish, you'd see the lines up at McDonald's and they've got like 50 Big Macs and 17 fries and all that kind of stuff going, which I'm with you. I'm much more of a McDonald's person, but I think what comes from it is my deal breaker is the beverage. McDonald's has Coke, KFC has Pepsi. So that's the deal breaker for me.
Wait, as in you prefer Coke over Pepsi?
I 100% prefer Coke. Yeah, yeah. Although when I lived in New Zealand, KFC in New Zealand had Coke instead of Pepsi. So it was this is tricky now.
Okay.
So, yeah, very important things that you've got to work out when you go to get your fast food, of course. Now, we'll get to some get some questions to close out, some fun get to know yourself questions. Before I do that, obviously when we had Sophie on, we talked a lot about her sort of animation and kind of drawing and all that sort of stuff. Now, I believe, doing a Bachelor of Arts. What's your field of study? Are you a drawer? Are you sort of following Sophie into this as well, or are you kind of inclined towards something a little bit different?
So I have actually changed courses since doing a Bachelor of Arts. I'm now doing a Bachelor of Design
Ah,
at uni. So yeah, I guess I am exploring my creative side a bit more now. I'm not a drawer like Sophie. Sophie is a very skilled drawer. I did not get those genes, sadly. But yeah, I guess I'm interested in like architecture and kind of design and kind of creativity in that sense. So, and like more so
fantastic.
design. So yeah.
Could you design aerial courses? Like, is there a pathway to designing certain types of jumps? Like, could that be something you could do?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I feel like the jumps are pretty set in stone. I probably couldn't really tamper with that too much, but I don't know, maybe.
Maybe. You never know. One thing actually I was surprised they didn't do for Beijing, I know there was a sort of World Cup or a World Championship once they had in a bird's nest there in Beijing.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they didn't turn around and do that, because ultimately you don't have any winter sports that go in the stadium. They have the opening and closing ceremony, right? So it's not like it was being used. So why didn't they put the aerials in the bird's nest like that World Cup they had many years ago?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I didn't go, obviously, but I remember hearing about it, and because it was all on scaffolding, I'm pretty sure, because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
podium. And they said like, because obviously seeing the jumps on the snow, like they're huge, but like they don't look that crazy. But seeing them on scaffolding, like it looks like they all look 10 times bigger,
Yeah.
just scarier. So yeah,
They
that'd
could
be
have done it easily. I mean, wasn't the big air, wasn't it in front of a nuclear plant or something like
yeah.
that? They had the giant logo on a nuclear stack, which is like, holy crap, what's going on here? So, I mean, China, I think, can afford the infrastructure. So I was very disappointed not to see that. You have 80,000 people watching you doing aerial. I mean, you don't probably get those crowds in your competitions, do you?
Yeah, yeah, the big air nuclear. That was so sick. Like seeing the photos in the
Yeah.
background, they're just nuclear plant. That's crazy.
It's always
Very
going to look back. I'm saying this now. Brisbane 2032 is technically a Winter Olympics for Australia, because it's been held in our winter. You've got obviously the great facility there in Brisbane for aerials and skiing in general. So let's get some sort of campaign going that we can include aerials in what's technically a Summer Olympics, but is also technically a Winter Olympics. Have it in the Gabba. You could have it in between the track and field, like that first week. Track and field, they've got to convert the stadium into track and field after the opening ceremony, put up a scaffolding, do some aerials in the Gabba, boom, take it down, track and field, simple. There it is.
so simple. Maybe we should ask. Yeah,
Yeah,
we do like water ramping comp in the Siemens where yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's a thing, obviously, that you do there. But actually, just on that, I love hearing about the Jeff Henke Centre. I mean, that's obviously such a groundbreaking facility for Australia and the sport in general. But I mean, is it kind of nice to be able to do a lot of training in a pretty warm climate for once, obviously, in Brisbane, even though you're no doubt getting wet all the time by splashing in that water so many days a year?
Yeah, no, it is really nice. It's a really cool facility. And yeah, as you said, like Brisbane doesn't really have winter, so it's cool that we can train like throughout Australian winter, and we're like finishing our water ramping camp like maybe middle of October, so it will be getting quite hot by that time. But yeah, it is really cool. But it's kind of funny because like in previous years we go over to like say Switzerland, or we've been to Canada in the past to use their facilities in the summer. So we've had like the summer and winter, but now technically we're never having a summer of training because we're like winter summer training and then after winter in North Hemisphere.
So you just don't know what summer is basically anymore, right?
No.
Don't even know the meaning of the word basically. So that's crazy to think. Which, I mean, I personally like cold weather. I know some people do like cold weather more than warm weather, but are you one of those people, or is it a case of you just thrive for warm weather because you're so used to those damn winters?
Yeah, I can't say I like cold weather. Just always kind of funny. Like I don't always
I'm
have the
weird.
relation in the winter. So, but yeah, I would say I thrive in the warm weather because it is cold the majority of the time when we're overseas. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I know I love winter with snow, and I like that kind of cold. But like Melbourne winter is like the most dreariest thing because like it's just
Yeah. Not the same. It's interesting, isn't it? I feel there's always that part of any Australian, even if you live in snow, but snow's still kind of magical, isn't it? That it's something
Yeah.
that we don't grow up with like they do in Europe or North America. So that never leaves you, does it? No matter how much you see snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's always exciting. I mean, growing up in Hobart, we're lucky enough to have a big mountain over the top of us that we can go up to the snow a fair bit in the winter. But I mean, it's sort of to wake up to it. Sort of, you open your door, there's snow. It's like, wow, it's pretty insane. As I said, Gabby, we wrap up every interview with a set of get to know you fun style questions. Now, I will say when Sophie answers this, there is a drawing part of this which is completely optional, and Sophie did. She drew and sent us in a couple of things that we shared on our social media. So I'll give you the example here. So for this one, you can draw a picture of your favorite animal, draw a place from your hometown or home state. I know in the past there's like draw a picture of your teammates. I don't know how you are at drawing Laura or Danny, but I mean, if you want to, you're most welcome to, but you don't have to. But again, you're competitive with Sophie. So like you could look at hers and go, I'm going to do better than Sophie did. So there's just another option for
Yeah.
you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. No
I'll
pressure.
my favorite animal as well.
Yeah. Okay. No pressure. I look forward to that. But these questions are based on, as always, a Team Canada questionnaire they gave their athletes ahead of Pyeongchang and Rio. And I'm going to start off by asking you your favorite ever Olympic moment. Well, we know the answer to this, isn't it? It's Matt Mitchum, right? So we've answered this. Tick it off. Do you have a favorite winter moment at all?
Well, I've got to say Lydia in 2014 when she did
Yeah.
oh my God, I forgot the name. Quadruple twist. That's pretty epic moment for sure. Like, yeah,
Which, being the first, and now it's pretty common, isn't it? A lot of females are doing that now, aren't they? Now since Lydia did that?
a few, not many, but there have been a few more people who have done it. Sure, yeah. Laura
Groundbreaking.
this winter, she didn't compete it, but she has tried on snow now. But
There you go. How far away do you think you are from landing that? Can we see that in Milan, or is it going to be a 2030, 2034 Olympics maybe?
I reckon Milan would be a bit of a stretch, but
Have you ever thought about doing like Lydia obviously did Survivor a couple of times? You know, is this
Yeah.
a thing that all of a sudden if Channel 10 give you a call, hey, Gabe, you want to do Survivor? Yeah, sure, let's give it a crack.
I actually don't know how I would fare on Survivor, but give it a crack. I feel like there'd be other reality shows I would do over Survivor, but
Like what? Come on, give us some. What would you do?
well, I was watching The Amazing Race last night, and I was like, that might be alright. But I reckon the block would be really interesting to
Yeah,
do.
that'd be fun.
Not
Get
that
you
it
and
would,
Soph on one of these shows. Olympic sisters on like the Amazing Race or the Block. That would be fun.
True. All right. Well,
Apply.
on there.
Apply. Go
Yeah.
on. Yes, or Channel 9, Channel 10 if you're listening. Come on, get them on. You're giving all these free ideas out. People need to start paying me. As a kid, your favourite sports team was?
Oh, my favorite sports team. Mm, See, I was one of those kids that was just like, well, because I just did diving and skiing. I guess that was kind of all I was really into. Like, I can't say I've been ever much of a ball sport kind of kid or anything. So, sports teams. I
Flying
can't say
kangaroos count, don't they? Like you could
yeah.
say them. Yeah.
No, I feel like because I was in individual sports teams, yeah, I wasn't really had a favorite sports team.
Has it ever grown? Like, is it sort of as you grow older, like, do you get into anything? Some of your friends maybe into some footy, basketball, anything like that, that maybe you take a little eye on or not too much?
Not too much. I feel like it's very un-Victorian of me to not really go for footy. I don't really have a footy team.
That's all right. I was going to say if you don't have sort of a loose one that just kind of goes in the background or not. So, it's a good,
Yeah.
I'll say it is a good thing because you don't want the pain that it brings. So unless you're going for a good team, which I don't, therefore you don't really want the pain. So keep that up, Gab.
Okay.
Don't join the dark side. It's hurtful. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Oh, any superhero. Oh, that's a really good one. Like, I've got to say, like Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman
She's a
would be,
superhero. Yeah,
yeah.
that works.
But also like Spider-Man would also be pretty sick as well to be able to just literally fly and go between areas.
Help you in your
Oh,
sport as well, wouldn't you? I think flying, it kind of give you a bit of an advantage being up there in the
yeah.
air. So yeah,
But also, like, used to love The Incredibles when I was younger. This kind of just came to mind, and being like Dash or
that counts.
yeah,
Okay,
but
all right. I like it. I like it. Who are your favorite music artists?
oh, this is such a tricky question. It does change a lot. I'm gonna say I like Australian bands. That kind of stays the same. Like I never know if I'm pronouncing this right, but like Cordial.
Sounds right.
um,
Sounds,
thank
yeah,
you.
that's good.
Yeah.
You're off the podium. Pronunciations is just a second thing. We don't really care too much about that.
Yeah.
That works. Okay, good to keep it local. I like that. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Another hard question. Um,
Canadians really know how to write these hard questions. They're doing well.
um, I've got to say, oh, one food. I do love, it sounds so boring, but like I love watermelon. I reckon I could eat that like 24/7 right now.
Healthy though too, so that kind of
Or like
works a treat.
wedges.
Oh well, great combination.
Yeah,
Watermelon and wedges.
hydrating.
Commonly eaten
Like you get
together. Yeah,
you get
wedges.
sick of wedges healthy, but like watermelon at
Un-
least is always hydrating, always kind of sweet.
yeah, well, underrated wedges. I feel like they get so overshadowed by fries, but
They do. Mm.
wedges are pretty darn good. I know when we had Sophie on, I think Colin asked what was her least favorite food, and I believe she said capsicum. Are you on the capsicum hate train as well, or?
No, I'm not. I'm on the I love capsicum train, and I hate cooking for Sophie because I always want to add capsicum.
And she's all just like take it out. So she's not one of those people who can just pick it out. It's got to be completely out of the food.
She has gotten better. She's gotten better.
Right.
But yeah, we used to always have an argument. I was like, why do you hate it? Like, it doesn't taste like anything. Like, even when you cook it, it's like, I don't know. But
Do
to
you,
be fair, she loves mushrooms. I hate mushrooms.
well, that
So,
was my next question. There you go.
okay.
So she's flipping around there that you don't like the mushrooms. I'm with you on the mushroom. Mushrooms are disgusting. So yeah, no, that's definitely something there. Your favorite place to compete is?
I'm gonna say Deer Valley, Utah, in America.
Mhm.
Um, that's always a really cool event. And they always have a big like US crowd, and we probably stay in like the nicest accommodation. And yeah, I think you get a bit spoiled at that event, which is pretty cool. So
Which would be all right. So is that where they had the Olympics in 2002? So if they get the Olympics back again, or am I thinking somewhere different in Deer Valley?
yeah, that was Salt Lake, wasn't it?
Well, so they're completely different areas. I'm not even in the
They
ballpark
are
there.
different
So
areas. Yeah, I don't
okay.
actually know where they had the jump sign, but yeah.
There. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
like
maybe it could be a site for the Olympics if they get the Salt Lake Olympics back, if it's in the same
mm,
state, right? So,
yeah,
who knows how that works? One thing that you have always wanted to do is,
it's very broad.
well, the answer that's on this one, the answer we're using here from Taylor Henrik, a Canadian ski jumper, they've said fly in a fighter jet.
Huh? I would
Hmm.
never. That would be pretty cool. I've got to say, maybe like be really good at the drums.
Yes.
So random.
No, I like that.
There's something about drummers that I think is just such a cool skill to have. So I reckon be a
Yeah.
drummer.
Badass
Mm.
drumming aerial skier. That's a TikTok
Mhm.
right there. You know, you could just get all the followers on
Oh,
that.
I
So
know TikTok famous. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's incredible. What is your favorite thing to do in the summer?
Um, that's all the question. Well, I haven't really been home for the summer for quite a while, so um, I would say I'd just go to the beach. I think, or it's just generally just be able to, I guess, wander around in
Not a
t-shirt and
ski
stuff.
jacket and a ski suit
Yeah,
and
it's lighter clothes.
beanie and t-shirt
Exactly.
and shorts. It would be nice once a
Oh,
year to kind of wear. Yes, exactly. I like that. What's your
exactly.
favorite movie?
Hmm. I really can't say I have a favorite movie. I struggle so much with this one. Um, what did I recently watched a really good movie with Kate Blanchett, but the title has left me. Yeah, sorry, I don't have an answer for you on that one.
That's we'll just go with a Kate Blanchett movie. We can fill
Yeah.
in the blanks there with that one. Now the question on this one is my favorite place to visit in Canada is, but let's flip this around. What is your favorite place to visit in Australia?
Oh, um, well, see, I'd love to explore Australia more, so I can't say I have a definite answer to this one because I feel like I have not seen the best place in Australia. But we went to, it was actually funny. So during our lockdowns in Australia and COVID, we were kind of trying to get up to Brisbane, but of course, because all the states were kind of like not letting anyone in or out, it was quite hard. So we ended up going to Darwin,
Ah,
random of all places, because we were in New South Wales. You could quarantine in Darwin for 2 weeks and then get into Brisbane from there.
Hmm.
And we were like in a place in New South Wales where it wasn't a red area. So yeah, I would say not Darwin the city, but the national parks around Darwin are really cool.
Fantastic. Big difference from a winter area too. Darwin from
Yeah.
minus 30 in Beijing to Darwin. Big difference.
Yeah. Humid 30 degrees plus every day. Like,
Yeah.
it was nice.
Wow. Wow. Great. I've never been. Northern Territory is the only state of territory I've not been to, but it's definitely definitely on the
Cool.
bucket list. Your favorite cartoon to watch growing up was?
Mm. Favorite cartoon? Probably The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Or Futurama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answers. I like that. If you had to do karaoke, what would you sing?
I have done karaoke a few times overseas.
Well, good, because we're about to play some music right now, Gabby.
Not too long. Oh, karaoke song.
What did you do when you did it? What was sort of the songs that you did?
Well, I've only done it like in a group. I've never done it just myself. But we did. Well, we were in Finland, I think, in one of them, and we sung. Was it Men Down Under? The typical
Land Down Under.
Land Down Under, yeah. Typical Aussie songs.
It's a classic. Never dies. Come on, there's a reason for that. Yeah.
And the other one we sang was like Every Time We Touch. That was a good fun song to sing.
Ah, Cascada, good song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel
I like that.
comes right now. So.
Well, now,
Yeah.
was this sort of like one of those ones where you have like a separate booth, or were you in front of like a whole room, basically, in
No,
front of
we were
everyone?
in a whole room.
Wow. You went full karaoke. None of this
Full
cheating and locking
karaoke.
yourself in a room. Yeah.
None of that. None of that. You need
Wow.
to go. Experience.
Okay. If there's footage of this, please send us in, Gabi. We'd love to see that. Last one for you today. If you could be an Olympian in any other sport besides your own, what would it be?
Hmm. Well, I feel like the first answer would be like diving, just because I've actually done it before. But if it was a sport I'd never done before, I reckon surfing would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just the Olympics.
Ten,
I've
10
never
years to
surfed,
go for
so-
Brisbane, home Olympics, surfing, plenty of time to train, right? You know, you've
Yeah,
got
exactly. I'm close enough to Gold Coast now. Like,
yeah, exactly. You know, you get so used to getting in that water there, the water facility. So just what's a surfboard instead of some skis? Kind of the same, sort of like a snowboard, but similar. I don't know where I'm going with that. Gabi, before we let you go, social media, anywhere that people can sort of follow your journey in between now and 2026.
I definitely have Instagram. It's just Gabi_Ash. Where you can
Simple.
follow my journey. Yeah.
Yep. TikTok, anything like that? Like I always like to ask about TikTok because I don't know what the fuck it is. So I'm sure half our guests know what it is. So that helps.
I am yet to make any videos for TikTok, but yeah, don't have
Coming
TikTok.
soon.
Coming soon, exactly.
Coming soon. Well, when you and Soph get on The Amazing Race or on the block, like it's going to take off. So it's going to do that way. Gabi, it's been so much fun learning about your journey in the sport and everything, your Olympic experiences. Best of luck moving forward into the next Olympic cycle. And we'll get you back on. We'll get you and Soph on together with both gold medals around your neck after Milan. How does that sound?
Sounds fabulous. Awesome. Thank you for having me.